I find it interesting how differently we tend to think about Christmas at different times in our lives. A friend of mine's 2.5-year-old granddaughter was asked what she wanted Santa to bring her this year, and she simply replied, a toy. My 10-year-old has a fairly long list of things he'd like Santa to bring. And a teenager, much like a toddler, wants that one thing, that one very expensive thing. But as we get older, I suspect that for most of us, our Christmas list becomes very different. Perhaps you know the song, My Grown-Up Christmas List, in which the singer says, so here's my lifelong wish, my grown-up Christmas list, not for myself, but for a world in need. This sermon series is called All I Want for Christmas, and it is based on grown-up ideas. And even more importantly, it's based on the things that God promises to us in our Christmas gift. Jesus, the Christ, Emmanuel, God with us. So for these 4 weeks of Advent, we'll be looking at hope, peace, joy, and love. The same topics that each of our Advent candles represent. And this week, we begin with hope. Advent begins by reminding us that we are a people who live in darkness, just as the people of Israel did when the prophets of old were reminding them that their only hope and salvation was God. You'll recall that around the time Jeremiah is writing, Israel is living in exile. Their glory days are over. Jerusalem looks like ground zero. Everything good they thought was going to happen has been undone, and they are a people susceptible to despondency and despair. And so the prophet comes to offer a word of comfort, a word of hope. Christmas brings hope, and Advent reminds us why we need the hope that is ours in Christ Jesus. Following the sermon, you'll hear a song called The Christmas Hope by contemporary Christian artist New Song. The lyrics include these words. Her wish this Christmas was that Christmas would just pass her by. Nothing can reach her or answer her questions why. She feels so alone, and she wonders if all hope is gone. You know, I suspect that in the midst of this season when the world is telling us that we should all be seeking that warm and fuzzy feeling, bonding with family and friends, going to parties, eating cookies and giving and getting gifts, in the midst of what is supposed to be a season of joy, we can sometimes feel awfully depressed and alone. The holidays sometimes remind us of only of what we don't have that we're supposed to have. It can remind us that we don't have the perfect family, that we don't have that significant other, that we don't have our loved one around this year to celebrate with. It can remind us sometimes that we don't have the financial resources we wish that we had. It reminds us of the ways we can't seem to achieve that perfect Christmas experience. And we're reminded of our own sense of failure. But in the midst of all that, Advent reminds us of the promise. The New Song chorus proclaims, hope is a candle, a light in the window showing the way for a heart to come home. Hope is a Savior who was born in the manger, sent down from heaven to rescue our hearts. Our Christmas hope. When people feel hopeless, whether that be in ancient Hebrew or in modern America, the message of Advent is to hang tight that God is our hope. Now, when we talk about hope here, we're not talking about it in the sense of I hope my football team wins today, or I hope Santa brings me a pony for Christmas. The biblical word hope means to trust that God's future is for us. God's future is for us. Faith means to trust in God in the here and now. But hope means to trust in God's future. Hope means realizing that God will not desert us in the decades, the centuries, and the millennia ahead of us. Whether our future means death or divorce, separation, moving or joblessness, or whether our future means marriage, babies, new homes, and new jobs. No matter what, our future belongs to God. Emmanuel means God is with us. And God, Emmanuel, will never leave us. The prophet reminds confused, discouraged people that God is at work in the world, saving redeeming, making all things new. God is at work freeing us from that which is holding us down, freeing us from the business of this world, freeing us from our own sinfulness. God is offering us the gift of Christmas, but we have to let go of all that keeps us from simply accepting that gift. If we fill the season with tinsel and glitter, with parties and food, if we cling tight to the culture's definition of a perfect Christmas, we won't be open to receiving God's gift of hope. Advent is a season of preparation. We are to be prepared. As one writer put it, yes, we have to be prepared to hold our ground in the midst of a world at war, a world faced with ecological destruction, pollution, hunger, disease, and more. We have to be prepared for that. But even more, we have to be prepared for the new life that comes with Christ. Our hope is in the fact that there's something more, something beyond the temporal things, the chaotic and the busy things we see around us. Our hope is that out of death, over and against death, comes what? New life. After winter comes spring. After Advent, a new baby is born. We have to make sure we're ready to receive the Christ child with our heads up, our hearts ready. We are to be prepared. Sometimes Advent can be confusing because we talk about the coming of Christ. And that has to do not only with the final coming, but also anticipation of Christmas. For God is always coming into our world again and again and again. I dare say most of us can speak from experience. It was only by the grace of God that I made it out of there alive. God carried me through that horrible time of suffering and grief. We were down to our last nickel, but somehow, with God's help, we survived. God has taken care of you through some difficult experiences in life. And for some of us, God is doing that even now as we walk what seems a dark path through the present. Well, the promise of Advent is that God, who was with us and is with us, will continue to be with us always. It's so easy to begin to feel hopeless sometimes. Just pick up the newspaper or turn on the news. Countries bombing one another, teenagers committing suicide, joblessness, hunger, poverty, people murdering, leaders lying, people lost in addiction, elder abuse, teenage pregnancy, and we ask, where's the hope? It seems like there's nothing we can do to fix all of the despair around us. Jeremiah was speaking to a people in a similar situation. The restoration of Israel is no longer based on their behavior, but entirely on the grace of God. Advent is a season of waiting and watching. And the question is, what are you waiting for? I think we need to be careful to await the things that really bring true life, not false, empty presents. The new song lyrics continue, hope is a present, a gift freely given to all who receive and open their hearts. Hope is a promise for a better tomorrow in a world filled with sorrow. We always have hope. Hope is future oriented. And frankly, most of us aren't good about waiting for the future to get there. I know I'm not. But I suggest that if we will make even a half-hearted attempt during the season of Advent, that God will come to us. Perhaps God will come at the end of another exhausting day of shopping when you start asking yourself, why am I doing this? Is this what's really important to me? Or you're waiting the end of a holiday party when you suddenly stop and realize, I don't even know these people. Maybe some quiet December morning as you sip coffee and look at the twinkling lights on your tree, you'll ask yourself, what am I doing to live out God's love? Advent is a time to help us find greater clarity about our life and our faith, and the one in whom we place our hope and our trust. Advent is a time for us to find hope, And it's a time for us as a church to offer hope. Today we lit the candle of hope. A light shines in the darkness, and we remember Emmanuel, God is with us. And that baby who was born at Christmas rose up to remind us that we, the church, we Christians, are the light of the world. We are to share the hope of Christ with everyone this season, but also beyond. Hope. Hope is a passion for the possible. And we remember that with God, all things are possible. Thanks be to God. Amen.